In 2025, new home sales in the Greater Toronto Area fell to just 5,314 units for the entire year. That's it. For a region of nearly 7 million people, 5,314 new homes sold. To put that in perspective, condo sales alone were down 89% from their 10-year average. And it's not just Toronto. Across all of Ontario, housing starts dropped 13% in 2025 compared to 2024. In British Columbia, pre-sales for high-rise condos in Metro Vancouver collapsed 53% compared to 2023. Developers aren't just slowing down, they're walking away from projects entirely. So what's actually going on? And why are two of Canada's biggest provinces essentially watching new construction fall off a cliff at the exact same moment the country is in a housing crisis? Let's get into it. Here's what happened in Ontario, and it's worse than most people realize. According to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Ontario recorded 62,561 housing starts in all of 2025. That's down from 72,118 the year before, a 13% drop year over year. But the really alarming number isn't the starts, it's the sales. New home sales across Ontario in 2025 fell to approximately 15,000 units. That sounds bad, but when you understand the context, it's devastating. For the past few decades, Ontario was selling between 65,000 and 85,000 new homes every single year. The province basically lost 5 out of every 6 buyers. And according to the Building Industry and Land Development Association, that's BILD, which represents home builders across the GTA, sales have dropped to the lowest level ever recorded since they started keeping track in 1981. The Residential Construction Council of Ontario, also known as ResCon, came out publicly and said, and I'm quoting their CEO Richard Lyle directly here, "The housing situation is actually much worse than people think it is, and it's going to be even worse going forward." He also said, "We have crushed the next generation. My generation has failed." That's not a spin doctor. That's the president of the construction industry's own trade council. In Toronto specifically, housing starts in the first half of 2025 were down 58% compared to recent years. ResCon analyzed 34 municipalities across the Greater Toronto Area and gave Toronto a failing grade. 22 municipalities in total received an F. Brampton was down 50%. The report found that housing starts had dropped 40% across the entire region, and the job losses are starting. ResCon estimates that 10,209 construction jobs disappeared in Toronto alone in 2025 because of the slow starts. The Laborers International Union of North America's Local 183, one of the biggest construction unions in Canada, has been tracking a serious drop in work hours for 6 to 8 months. Their director of government relations described it simply, "Too many people chasing too few projects." The situation is so bad that Ontario Housing Minister Rob Flack publicly admitted earlier in 2025 that home building in Ontario was at a, his words, standstill. And Ontario is now the only province in the entire country where housing starts are falling while everywhere else is holding steady or growing. Alberta's building, Quebec's building, the prairies are building. Ontario is not. If you're following what's happening in the Canadian housing market, this channel covers it every week with real data. No spin. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now let's talk about British Columbia, because what's happening there is a different kind of problem, but it leads to the same outcome. Metro Vancouver used to have lineups around the block when a presale office opened for a new condo tower. People would put deposits down before a single brick was laid. That culture basically no longer exists. In the first 2 quarters of 2025, Metro Vancouver logged just 1,472 presales for high-rise concrete condos. According to Zonda Urban, the major presale tracking firm, that puts the region on track for a 20% decline from 2024 and a 53% collapse from 2023 levels. Only one concrete high-rise project launched in the second quarter of 2025. One. When you zoom out to all pre-sales across the region, wood and concrete buildings together, they're down 33% from last year and down 50% compared to longer-term historical averages. The chief economist at the BC Real Estate Association, Brendan Ogmanson, said it directly. That's a big collapse. And here's why this matters beyond the numbers. When pre-sales die, construction dies. Developers use those pre-sale deposits to secure construction financing. No pre-sales, no financing. No financing, no shovels in the ground. The CMHC itself confirmed in its latest housing market outlook that BC is expected to see more condo projects postponed or canceled in 2026, with those effects stretching into 2027 and 2028. The unsold condo inventory in Metro Vancouver is expected to climb more than 60% this year, and more than 22% of land sales over $5 million in early 2025 were court-ordered, meaning developers were being forced to sell, which is double the rate from the same period last year. Housing starts across BC fell 4% in the first 7 months of 2025 compared to 2024. Single detached home starts dropped 11%, and the seasonally adjusted annual rate of starts in BC fell 15% in a single month, July to August, while the rest of Canada went up 5% in the same period. BC Housing Minister Ravi Kahlon acknowledged the market conditions had stalled projects and rolled out some emergency measures, including doubling the timeline for developers to pay development fees from 2 years to 4 years and allowing surety bonds instead of bank letters of credit. The province also stepped in with $250 million in federal cash to backstop projects in Metro Vancouver that were started before March 2024 and got stuck midstream. But the BC government made clear it was not scrapping its speculation tax, its foreign buyers tax, its anti-flipping tax, or its short-term rental restrictions. Industry groups say those policies, while intended to cool investor speculation, have also spooked the very capital needed to get new towers built. And then in early 2026, the BC government dropped a new budget that raised the speculation and vacancy tax on foreign owners from 3% to 4%, expanded the PST to cover professional services like engineering and architecture, which directly affects the cost of designing new buildings, and raised additional school taxes on properties over $3 million. Brendan Ogmanson from the BC Real Estate Association responded publicly, "There is unfortunately not a lot to like from either a macroeconomic or housing perspective in this budget." Here's the part a lot of headlines skip past. The collapse in Ontario and BC construction isn't just about interest rates. There are a few layers to this, and understanding them matters. Layer 1. The cost to build has exploded. The Canadian Home Builders Association reported in April 2025 that the average cost to build a 2,400 square foot home has jumped by nearly $98,000 since early 2020. That's just materials. Labor is tight, and in Q1 2025, 71% of builders said they'd already received supplier notices of price increases, largely driven by the threat of U.S. tariffs on steel, aluminum, and lumber. Layer 2, development charges are crushing projects before they start. This is a big one that doesn't get enough attention. Development charges, the fees municipalities charge developers before construction even begins, have skyrocketed. CMHC data shows that for a condo unit in Toronto, development charges alone hit $130,200 in 2025. For a single detached home in the city of Toronto, it's approximately $180,600, just in fees, before materials, before labor, before land. In Toronto, a one-bedroom apartment carried $10,000 in development charges in 2014. By 2024, that number was $52,000. A report done for ResCon found that 36% of the total cost of a new home in Ontario is now accounted for by the tax burden. BILD CEO Dave Wilkes called it directly. What we have now is a cost-to-build crisis. Some municipalities are trying to respond. Mississauga cut its development charges, Burlington dropped theirs by 45%, Vaughan rolled back to 2018 rates, but Toronto and many others haven't moved. Layer 3, the pipeline works on a 10-year delay, and it's already broken. Here's what most people don't understand about home construction. A home you see being built today was sold as a pre-sale 3, 4, sometimes 5 years ago. The current collapse in sales means the homes that should start construction in 2027 and 2028 were never sold. They will never be built. CMHC's own projections show Ontario housing starts could fall to 40,000 units per year by 2030, down from about 80,000 today. And this is happening while Ontario's population keeps growing. As of right now, Ontario has hit roughly 26% of its 2025 housing target. The province needs 150,000 new homes per year to even come close to its 2031 goal of 1.5 million homes. And it's not getting close. The Financial Accountability Office of Ontario confirmed that in Q1 2025, construction began on just 12,700 housing units, the lowest since 2009. The Building Industry and Land Development Association warned that if market conditions don't improve, new home construction in Ontario could bottom out at just 4,000 single-family homes and 10,000 apartments per year. And the job losses that come with it? They estimate 40,000 direct construction jobs and another 30,000 supply chain jobs could disappear. The CMHC, in its Housing Market Outlook released in late 2025, laid it out clearly. Construction and home sales in Ontario and BC will remain weaker than their 10-year averages, while the prairies in Quebec stay above historical norms. Ontario is the only region expected to see home price declines in 2026. Two of Canada's most expensive, most populated provinces are building fewer homes at exactly the moment they need more. And the pipeline to fix that isn't a one-year problem. It's a decade-long problem that's only getting harder to solve. Homeowners, renters, and investors across both provinces are watching this situation very closely. And they should be, because whoever builds or doesn't build the homes of the next decade is going to shape prices, rents, and affordability for an entire generation. And that's where things stand right now. Ontario and BC, the two provinces that were supposed to lead Canada out of its housing shortage, are instead leading a construction collapse. The data is undeniable. The industry is sounding the alarm, and the governments are still trying to figure out how to respond. If this breakdown helped you understand what's actually going on, subscribe to the channel. We're tracking this every week. And drop a comment below. Are you a homeowner, a renter, or someone trying to get into the market? I want to know how this is hitting you personally. We'll see you in the next one.